Hi, I'm Susanna, and thank you so much for staying. Hi, I'm Susanna. Thank you. Oh, Lordy. Okay, here we go. Hi, I'm Susanna. Thank you for coming to watch the behind the scenes unedited version. This is Nic Nicosia, and he's really great. He was my very first interview, and he's an amazing artist and so fun to talk to. So thank you again for being here. Leave us a comment at gibagencydallas.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
And I said, look, no talking. Okay, I just want the sound of the car and natural sounds. They talked the whole time. The little things filmmakers make, what's it called? I forgot. It's been a long time since I made a movie.
Storyboards.
Storyboards.
Yeah. Did you grow up on ragu spaghetti sauce?
Not even close.
No, art is what people think of it, but I want to touch the big hands.
Well,
I want to connect to the big hands.
They actually want to just spank his little butt.
Yep, we're good to go.
Okay. I'm probably going to do your intro later so I can pull whatever little tasty tidbits that we get from this and kind of weave it in. So I'll probably just go into it and just know that I will fix it in post because I come from that world. So if you want to stop and start over, if you're like, no, I hate that, I want to do it again or whatever, like I'll edit. I know that some people are like, it must be pure and unedited. I'm like,
no one does that.
I don't know. I think there's Spider could probably tell us stories.
There's for sure people that don't want any editing.
No, they
but
like.
I think it's more they don't want to pay for it or do it themselves. Than
Millennials.
It's hard to believe. You know, millennials are old now, right?
Like, how old are they?
They're like in their 30s and 40s.
Oh, that's old.
Well, I mean, they're not the Gen Zers are the one we really have to blame now.
You're right. Is that who we blame now?
That's who the millennials are blaming is the Gen Zers.
I get you. Yeah, we always blame the ones right afterwards.
Right?
Yeah.
So do you want me to start? It sounds like, can I ask you questions or do you have things you want to start with?
No, I don't have anything to start with, really.
Okay.
God, was my voice really this bad?
I think it sounds fine.
Okay.
It sounds good.
Okay.
I will say your Wikipedia page needs some updating.
I didn't do it. I don't know you.
Because here's the thing. Like, I know you and I've known you for a long time. And when I read back through your bio, there's pieces that are missing. You know, I feel like I've been really fortunate to know you for so long. Yeah. And so I'm like, where's this era and where is this era? And
I don't even know who did that.
Well, there's like, I was like, we need to update his bio. But like Erin Cluley, her bio has a pretty good thing. But, you know, you've been so fortunate, I think, to have so much success. I mean, was there ever any moment when you're like, oh, I have made it? Or
in 1983, when I had a spread in Life magazine, and I went, oh man, I'm a what did I say, like a household artist, or I mean, it lasted about an hour, but
because that movement was your stage photographics,
right? Basically, I don't think being an artist ever allows you to feel like I made it, I'm comfortable. I mean, maybe some of the ones that most of us could never relate to, that have a staff of 200 people, and they're basically a company. And they just produce work. And I'm not sure how much the actual artist does, maybe just the idea. And I'm not going to name any names today, although I'd love to, but I won't.
You want to name one?
Only if it's positive.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I do like this person's work in general, Jeff Koons, but he is not relatable to any other visual artist I know. I mean, the way that the work is produced, the way that it's promoted, the number of people working for him. He got, I don't really know the total amount, but something like, 1 million something when the COVID relief thing was. So it was really like a company.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a different kind of level. And there's a few of, 2 or 3 of these people. He's the most kind of out of like an artist working with by himself or a couple of assistants in a studio, right? I mean,
so if you had to describe this staged photographic movement? How would you describe it to somebody who doesn't know what you're talking about?
Well, the easiest way is to say that it wasn't a taken photograph; it was a made photograph. In other words, everything that the camera recorded was made up.
Or planned?
Our plan, exactly. The sets were built. It's basically the same as you would do with a play or a film, motion picture. Is there's drawings, as there would be the little things filmmakers make. What is it called? I forgot. It's been a long time since I made a movie.
Storyboards.
Storyboards.
Yes.
So there's drawings,
Mhm.
then there's actually building of the set, then making or finding the props, casting it, costuming it, and then at the end, it's a photograph, which is the most anticlimactic part of the whole thing. And I was always called in the early part a photographer, and I never felt comfortable with that description because all the other stuff was really a lot more interesting to me. And taking the picture, although it was a fun evening or day, working with actors and laughing, it was basically a little bit of a party each time. And I was a lot younger too.
Mhm.
The actual photograph itself was not as exciting to me as all the stuff that came before it, the process.
How many how many was in this series that
Well, there was a few series starting 1979 where I actually just collaged on top of, like, for instance, I would photograph, I don't know, let's just, for an example, a row of cypress trees. And then and then I would have a print made of that image.
Mhm.
And then on top of the image, I would collage, I would draw, I would cut pieces of paper, I would change the information. And that's what the staged photographic sort of movement was questioning the information and the reality of a photograph. My thing is, a camera can't lie. It's only what you put in front of it that can lie. It can lie like hell. And because it's recording one. What was the question?
How many was in the series? What I really like, the one
Oh yeah, how many? There was several series of that. There was like domestic dramas, near modern
that's the one that
disaster.
I remember the
Yeah,
most is
yeah.
domestic dramas.
Right. And the one that came after was near modern disasters, which was very similar but larger sets. Then there was the first one was called Color Books, and they were like page 1, 2, and 3, and they looked like a child's coloring book because my children were at that age where I was questioning, why is that the information they're receiving? Why is everything out-shaped, outsized, or off-sized, I guess? And so I made pieces like Color Book, and then those were the first ones that were actually I used people within them. They weren't necessarily acting at that point; they were more prop-like, but they were human beings in the photograph as actors. And then I went to domestic dramas, which was a little bit more involved, and then near modern disasters, which was even more involved with a more larger sets, more difficult to make pieces, people hanging from wires, etc. And then I did a series called The Cast, where I was learning to develop characters by costume and makeup. Then after that was Life as We Know It. And that series, again, was inside a studio and staged. And there was a musical score written for it. So when I was exhibiting the photographs, there was a music, sort of pop music, written and performed by Dave Hickey, the critic. And then following that, I actually felt that it was time to go on location. So the series called Real Pictures was in black and white, and it was to appear that I was walking around my neighborhood or walking around a city street and finding these events that I had actually staged, of course, and photographed them. And then after a series called Love and Lust, which was after that, I was really burned out. It was too easy. I wasn't burned out so much as I needed more within my work.
What year was this?
These would be like 92, something
92.
like not 89.
So the Life spread
90.
came out in 84, you said?
Yeah, something like 83 maybe. It was like right after the Whitney Biennial, I think. The first Whitney Biennial I was in was 1983. So it might have had something to do with that exhibit.
So before we leave this, so speaking specifically of domestic dramas, which I'm probably the most familiar with, and then some of the real pictures, there's this, how much do you consider the viewer when you're constructing these pieces? Or like what goes into it when you are like coming up with an idea for, just use
Well-
one of the like domestic drama, for example.
Well, I don't consider the audience. I work intuitively. Ideas just appear, and if I feel like it's something I want to follow, to see through, if I am, I'm losing words here. If it's something that I have to do, and whether it fails or works, it doesn't matter. I have to see it through. And if an audience responds to it, that's wonderful. But I know that within a series, just like in a motion picture, there are scenes people won't respond to, or people that respond to that one, that scene, or that piece might respond to a different one. So I do know that within a series of, say, domestic dramas, I think were 8 pieces. And some of them I just wanted to make and I wanted to exhibit. And I knew they weren't going to be well received, actually, in general.
But they were.
Well, the whole series was, yes.
Oh, but some pieces weren't.
Right.
Because there seems to be, it was striking me as I was going through a lot of these pictures was there's, in domestic dramas, it almost feels like you're involved in something that maybe the viewer, maybe I'm involved in this scenario that I'm not really supposed to see. And then there's some in real pictures. There's the one with the 3 kids looking at the tree and the little girl is turning back. And again, there's that moment of like, are you supposed to be here? Like that's, and so I just.
Right.
Are you supposed to be here?
Yeah, they're supposed to be there. Well,
or am I as the viewer supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be?
The viewer's always supposed to be there. I was still in a motion picture mindset through most of the 80s because that's what my,
Those are your background.
That's what my training was in. Not that I did a lot with it. And then in 1997, I was compelled to. I just couldn't do any more photographs. So I decided I was going to make motion pictures again. And that's when I made Middleton, which is basically real pictures, emotion real pictures.
Right.
And I think I made a little, stop action cartoon. I made a, I don't remember. I think that was the next one. Oh, I made 3. There was a series of 3. It was Middletown, then Middletown Morning, which took place within a home, and it was a little bit more surreal. And then the third one was, the middle, the middle one was Moving Picture, and then the third one was Middletown Morning, and it was more like a sitcom. And I think the next one was the one you're in, which
that was your favorite. It was your favorite, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. It was definitely. It was the only thing about that is I spent all the money Neiman's gave me just about to make that damn thing in 35 millimeter motion picture when it could have just been video.
I mean, video wasn't as prevalent then, though, was it?
No, it wasn't. And it wasn't very good looking unless it was black and white, because that little Sony digital camera was really quite good in black and white. It looked like 16 millimeter. And I thought at this point I was just going to become a director. That's it. I was done with with visual art, and I
Mm.
wanted to become a director until I realized I just am better by myself.
Oh,
So the movie I made was a 9.5 hour real time drive from Dallas to Santa Fe with 3 video cameras running full time.
what was part of the reason for leaving Dallas to go to Santa Fe?
Weather.
Weather? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Our children, I've lived here my whole life. I felt that it was time for me, and Becky went along with it, thank goodness. Um, I just wanted a different view. I wanted to have a different climate. I felt it was time to meet a new collector base. And at the time, Santa Fe was really
Santa Fe
hot.
was hopping.
It was hopping for contemporary visual art. And that was because Site Santa Fe was doing these beautiful biennials. Contemporary galleries were opening. And then collectors would come there. And art world, I saw more, when I first moved there, I saw more people from New York than I ever saw when I went to New York, basically. They were all coming through Santa Fe. And so I thought that'd be a good opportunity to, when you hit mid-career, you start looking for things that make mid-career not as difficult as it can be, because at that point you're not as exciting as the new young thing.
Mm.
And so
Did you feel less successful at this time?
not right away, but then I think my career kind of died in Santa Fe.
Why is that?
Because I loved it so much, I didn't want to leave, and I didn't travel, and I didn't nurture my galleries. I didn't
Oh,
meet anyone new. And then the contemporary art world in Santa Fe just dried up like a prune. And I didn't see anyone, no studio visits, nothing. And then, it was just time to leave. It was, we were there for 11 years. Our kids were getting married. We knew grandkids were going to come. And at some point, we would have moved back. And it was the best. Actually, it was a way better decision than to move there.
what?
Actually, not. That's wrong. Only because my work changed. I got to Santa Fe and I went, I'm going to do whatever I want now.
Mm.
I've been doing this for 30 years. And that's where the sculpture and the drawing started coming to the forefront.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about the sculptures. When you came back to Dallas, was it the same city you left?
No, not anywhere close as far as art goes. Which was funny because I traveled back maybe once a month, once every 2 months to visit the gallery, to see my parents were still alive in here. One of our daughters was still living here. And I came back regularly. And I didn't pay attention to what was going on because I didn't go to galleries. I would just go to my gallery, which at the time was Dun and Brown, and that I was showing with, being represented by. And then when I moved back, I still didn't really get it. I didn't understand that anything had changed at all. And I didn't have a gallery because I had left that gallery when they split up. And so someone recommended that I meet this gallerist, Erin Cluley. And so I went over to her gallery one day. I didn't do that right away. I just did that, just out of random day. I went, well, I guess I'll go over there and see what everybody's talking about. And we just started talking, and she goes, could I do a studio visit? I went, yeah, sure. It wasn't any decisions or nothing had been discussed except she asked if she could do a studio visit. So she came over a few weeks later, and then she just said, look, I told my husband I'm going to do what I want. I want to say what I want, and I want to show your work. And I went, okay, let's think about it for a minute. And then about a week later, I said, because I was talking to another gallery, and I said, let me see what they're thinking. And then let me just say it was probably the best decision I've made in many years because she's just a dream to work with. My career in Dallas has gone really, really well. And I'm only in Dallas. And that's something I was going to mention, that for well, let me backtrack just a moment. Um, she said, "Look, I'm having an opening this weekend, so why don't you come by?" And I thought, well, I'll go and see kind of what it's like. The place was packed. I mean, shoulder to shoulder. And I looked at her. I said to her, I don't know anyone. She goes, "That's okay. They're all artists anyway." I mean, she was joking, of course, because she loved a lot of them. However, what that meant, what I said was, all of these people are artists. Oh my God, when did this happen? When did they stay and not go to Houston or New York or somewhere else?
Yeah.
And then I realized how many galleries had opened with these young art dealers. They're all wonderful. They're very eager. They're very honest. They're very hardworking. And like tell people now that you used to be able to come to Dallas and you could see the museums and the two galleries. Sorry, all the others I'm not mentioning, but it's only like a half a day, and you go to lunch and you're done, right?
Right.
It takes 2 to 3 days. It takes at least 2 days to see everything now, which is really kind of cool. This is happening, I think, in every city. And that is one of the reasons why art dealers are not really connecting to art dealers outside of their city. In other words, when I was coming up, Delahunty Gallery had connections with many New York galleries. So the artists that they showed in Dallas always had some opportunity as either a courtesy to the Dallas art dealer or to, because they were looking outside of their area to show someone new. And now there's so many artists in each city, no one really has to look outside of it. I mean, no, we don't see curators from museums in New York or LA coming through Dallas anymore like they used to, or Chicago, really.
Are they relying more on digital, or they just want people in their own
Well,
city?
I think, I mean, it's hard to determine, but I believe it's because it's all, out of sight, out of mind, kind of. And why travel when if you're a New York museum curator, why travel to Texas to look for artists when the ones that they might be interested are showing in New York or in Europe, or, all of a sudden now they want to show, Muslim art. And then so all of them, it's just like a magnet, let's all just show Muslim art, or let's just all show this art or that art. So again, mid-career, mid-late career, it's a different kind of
So do you think
life.
because the arts district was done by the time you got back?
Which arts district
Well,
are
I'm
you
talking about
speaking of?
the downtown, where it's the building at the end, Booker T, the
Yeah.
theater, the performance hall connecting to the Windspear, the DMA, the Nasher, like the whole way down.
Yes, that was all being built while I was gone.
While you were gone.
However, that's not what I think most artists consider the arts district. I mean, yeah, the DMA.
The downtown arts district, I
Yeah,
guess I should
the
have said.
DMA and the Nasher. The Nasher's killing it. They're doing wonderful things. The DMA, the first show that I saw when I got back was the Pollock show, which was so spectacular. Even people that weren't a fan of Pollock, fell into this show and just loved it. It was wonderful.
So what do you
And-
consider the arts district
Well, I think where the galleries are,
in the design district?
that's now the design district, exactly. And
I love that area. It's changed so much.
yeah,
It's still funky though.
it's still funky.
Yeah. So now that you mentioned the Nasher, which is a great tie-in to your sculpture period. So circling back, when you gave up photography and you came back to Dallas, that was about the time you switched mediums again?
Well, I mean, I didn't give up photography. I just had to find another way to do it.
Okay.
And another way to incorporate it. So basically, today, the photographs, the sculpture, and the drawings all work together. They're all like pieces of each other. In other words, sometimes I would make the sculpture to be the basically the sculpture started when I made these figures, and they were the props or the actors, so to speak, in my photographs when I was living in Santa Fe. And my art dealer, Jim Kelly, at the time said, "Would you like to show these little characters? Because they're great. They were made out of a paper clay. There were these white figures, humanoid
Mm-hmm.
and or human-like. They didn't have genders, so to speak. And I exhibited them in a different way. I didn't just stick them out there like these are my sculptures. We put them behind a scrim and didn't light it, so they were these dreamy little figures. Well, then collectors are interested in them. And I loved that because I really think I've found myself in being able to make these things. Nothing gives me more pleasure than sitting down and making something, physically making it. And, you know,
Do you know what you're going to make when you sit down?
when I sit down, I know what I'm going to make. Yes, but I don't know when. I don't know when the ideas are going to pop up, and everything that I do, see, hear, read, all come together at some point, and the idea will just manifest itself, and then I'm compelled to make it. And sometimes I throw the thing away. But I I'm a little better at that now. Of course, I'm a mature artist. I've been doing it for 40 something years. And so I pre-visualize. I can really pre-visualize. So I know something's going to function the way I want it to before I even start it.
Do you have such a thing as there's writer's block for writers. Do you ever feel like you struggle with artist block where you just,
Every time you make a piece, you don't think you're going to have another idea.
oh, interesting.
But you learn as your art matures, you learn that isn't going to happen.
Mm.
I mean, if you're, as an artist, that's all you think about. And artists that say I work all day, they don't go in the studio and work all day. That no one does that. Now, if I'm on if you're on a project or you're towards the end of a painting or a sculpture, and it might take all day to finish it or whatever, but in general, I work in the studio about 3 hours, but I work all day because I think about it and I look at it, and everything is logged mentally, or I write it down, or I do a drawing of it so that I can remember it later.
I think the fun thing about looking at your sculptures, at least for me, and you tell me if what you hear other people say, is I never look at your sculptures and think, I could have done that.
Really?
No, I never do. Like sometimes you go into a museum, for example, and you see something and you're like, wow, I could have totally painted that. I could have painted that. It's a canvas with yellow. It's a single color of yellow on there. But I never look at your sculptures and I think, man, I could have done that. Mostly I'm like, wow, how did he come up with that idea?
Thank you. Well, my answer to people that say I could have done that is yes, you could have done it, but do you know why? And that takes us back to this whole movement thing. That yellow painting might be an Ellsworth Kelly, and there's a million reasons why he did that against whatever came before him. We're talking about movements. So I support that, And yes, especially today, there's a lot of stuff that you could do because it seems like everybody's making art, and there's many things that are considered art that wouldn't have been considered art 25 years ago. And that's art fairs. There's art fair art, and what art fairs have allowed is not collectors, but art buyers. So just about anything could find a buyer. It's like the old saying, what is it? Somebody for everybody.
Oh, yeah. There's some art for everybody.
Well, no, there's more like, every person can find somebody to be with.
Right.
So there's a piece of art, if it's called art or if it's not art or whatever the thing is, that somebody will want. Now, there was just an AI painting made. Have you seen this?
I have not.
100% AI generated. And it has no soul. And that's what's great about drawing and sculpture and painting and collaging and putting your hands on the thing, is it has part of the artist. And I can't explain it, but it is beyond the visual. And I
Interesting.
experienced this with that 9.5-hour movie. I did a take one, if you can believe that. And I had my daughter and my friend, Chris, who I mentioned to you, the stand-up comedian. And I said, look, no talking. Okay, I just want the sound of the car and natural sounds. They talked the whole time. And then I got into it talking to him. And when I went and watched the footage, it had nothing. It had no guts, no soul. It was the same image the second time, but I drove it by myself in silence, and somehow that gets on the art. And I've spoken to other photographers and artists who have experienced the same thing, and I think it's true. You have to put a little bit of your DNA on there. And with this AI thing,
Yeah. I've not heard it, but now I'm going to have to go look at it.
I'm going to read this. This was what someone wrote about it. It says, "This is so gross. I can see how AI art can be beneficial, but claiming you're an artist by generating one, absolutely not. On the AI-generated first prize winning piece at a state fair contest in Colorado, the picture is beautiful. It's otherworldly, and of course, it's very fantasy, and that seems to be something people like these days. I'm not into the fantasy thing. I mean, and my thing is, an elephant can make a mark, a cat can make a mark, but it's not art. It's not what I consider high art or high visual art or something that will sustain interest over a long time."
Interesting. That's one of the questions that I had for you that I really wanted to get to, because I remember talking to you once about this artist that I had met from Santa Fe, and I had asked if you knew him, and you were like, "Oh, he's not an artist." And I always wondered that. I
Who
was like,
was it?
"Oh, I don't remember his
Don't,
name."
don't say his
I
name.
wouldn't say his name
well,
by any means, but I always wondered, like, what, and you just kind of described it, like what makes an artist, what makes a piece of art.
Yeah, there has to be a content and a reason, I guess. And I think these days people do a lot of gimmicks, and that might have been a gimmick art. Like, I saw someone put paint on a table and then turn the canvas upside down and smash it in there, and that's nothing. It has nothing. It has no guts. It has no background. It has no history. It came from nowhere. And people exhibit these things, and curators that are of a certain age, they accept a lot more art than I would, or people back in the 80s ever would. And it's sort of like music, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the music that you're first exposed to is what you seem to always be attracted to through your life. Not that you think it's the best, but it's just the one that you always go back to when
It's
you
the ragu spaghetti sauce theory.
Oh, what is that?
It's the basic same thing, that you think ragu spaghetti sauce is the best because that's what you grew up on.
Except I'm Italian, so I'm very far from that.
Well, did you grow up on ragu spaghetti sauce?
Not even close.
No, it's like why Indian people like Indian food.
Ooh, I don't know.
They
but
grew
I
up
like
on it.
too. Yeah.
That's home for them.
Well, that's true. And, so they accept this thing because that when they came up as in school and curators, they were seeing this gimmicky art, for a better lack of a term. I know that's sort of derogatory, but I'm not saying it's all that, because there's still some, and I think people that make this stuff are very serious about what they do. So it's hard to be negative about it, but I don't have to like it.
No. Well, it also it's like so hard for people to get attention if there's so many artists. What do you do
Exactly.
to get out there? Do you make this piece of art that maybe is not?
You
Let's
don't
let's
have to make art. Everyone does not have to make art. Like when I lived in Santa Fe, a CEO from a major company moved to Santa Fe. They grow a gray ponytail. They buy a welding torch, learn how to weld and put crap together, and then they think that their art is completely equal to yours that you spent 40 years making
Gotcha.
or perfecting, or you've done your more than 10,000 hours, so to speak. And the thing that is wonderful about today for artists is you can make more than what you are pegged at.
Mhm.
And that, like, I showed drawings in 1985 in New York, and I was given grief because I was only supposed to make photographs. And today, now I'm go like, hey, I'm 71, I do whatever the F I want to do, but it's accepted now because artists are very talented people, right? They can make their work with different materials, and nothing's been better for me. I've been thrilled about making drawings and these sculptures. It's just and the fact that people accept them is even greater.
I sometimes wonder if you imagine a piece of tape on a wall in a museum and somebody calls it art. Let's just go back into that realm for just a second. Is the fact that I, standing in front of it, have to decide whether I like it as art, whether I accept it as art, bring value to talking about art and bringing
Yeah,
up art.
you don't have to. You can like it or not like it, right? There's no dislike if there's not
But it
like.
makes me define it as like, I accept this as art, or I accept this as a stupid piece of tape on the
Yeah,
wall
but there's also knowledge.
of why they put the piece of tape
Yeah,
on the
like
wall.
maybe that piece of tape came from some immigrant trying to cross, the Rio
Well, that would be
Grande.
a lot more interesting than just a piece of tape on the
Right,
wall.
but no one's going to put a piece of tape and not give that kind of information. I mean, there was a dead banana for sale for $100,000, and I love that artist, but not that banana,
Interesting.
you know. It's sort of, I think actors go through the same thing. I heard Tony Hale actually on the podcast I was listening to while I was swimming today. Yes, I have a waterproof iPod.
You're so fancy.
Yeah, it's tiny. Anyway, and he was saying that I love actors, actually, by the way. I think I probably am a little bit frustrated actor or something. I don't know, because I listen to a lot of them, and a lot of them are quite intelligent, as you know. And Tony Hale said that he was a commercial artist, like he did commercials. I mean, commercial actor. He did commercials. And when he went to auditions, he could hear the director or the casting director say, he's just a commercial actor. We can't get him.
Mm.
And then there were TV actors, and you couldn't do movies.
No, you get
and
pegged.
Yeah, and movie actors would never do a TV. Now they all do all of them, sort of like I do everything. It's that has opened up because of the number of people, I think, that started off in the last 15 or 20 years doing all of it. They didn't distinguish.
Well, let's get to, I really want to talk to you about big hands.
Okay.
I have questions that I couldn't find answers to online.
Okay.
And now that I'm really excited to know that there's a story behind the big hands, which is beautiful and in the Nasher. For anybody who hasn't seen it, you have to go check out.
Except it's down for now. I don't know when it's going to come back up.
Oh, no. Why?
Well, because they had to move it to put up a tent.
Oh.
And I think once they take something down, it'll stay down for a little while. But I don't know. I'm having lunch with Jed Morris, the curator, tomorrow, and I'll see if I can squeak out some information about what's happening with Big Hands.
So Big Hands is a humanoid
Mhm.
and with big hands.
Right.
Why the big hands?
Well, it's sort of a perspective exercise. It was an exercise in, can I make this thing and make it stand up?
Mm.
That's always the challenge. I mean, that's the fun part about sculpture, is trying to engineer. And it was when so much in my life was going on negatively. Home, kids, finances, career, politics. I just wanted everything to stop.
Mm.
Just stop. And that's what the hands being raised. And I don't want to give too much information because that's all anybody will see. But I mean, that's simple, the stop thing.
I don't want to put my hands up and touch.
You can
His hand.
touch it, maybe.
I wonder how many, I would be curious to know how many people have touched it, because literally when I see it, like, art is what people think of it, but I want to touch the big hands.
Well,
I want to connect to the big hands.
They actually want to just spank his little butt. You got a pretty cute little butt.
That's funny. No, I didn't think about spanking the butt, but now I'm sure I will when I go by. I'll have to go around and look at the butt.
The surface being sandblasted stainless steel just has a real tactile look to it. It's velvety. It's very beautiful. And yeah, when I was in school, when I went back to school and took an art class, I don't have really any art training in any of this stuff. Not even photographs. I learned that in this camera, working in my camera shop. Sculpture is made to be touched.
Mm.
It's made tactile. It's made by hands, and hands want to touch it.
But you can't touch
If you were with me, I'd let you sneak a touch.
What is your favorite piece do you have a favorite piece?
This is the same answer. Probably every artist will tell you, and every filmmaker, it's the piece you're working on.
Yeah.
And it may not be. I mean, I love big hands. I love many of the others. And sometimes when you make a piece that's universally accepted, you kind of question it, like, oh, really? Is it really that good? Because everyone seems to like it.
Mm.
Maybe I didn't hit the mark on that one. But yes, I think the more difficult ones seem to have a place in your mind as being your favorite, only because it was so damn hard to make. But the one I'm making now it's just where your mind is only there. You don't really think of basically when I look at every work before the one I'm working on, I don't know how I made it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know, how the hell did I engineer that, and blah, blah, so.
How do you feel about going into this next decade, about your next movement, your next piece of work?
I don't know. I'm just making work right now. There's nothing in the works for an exhibition, at least not for the next 3 years. And I'm just making work. I'm making collages again on top of photographs and then rephotographing them. So I've gone all the way back to 1979, basically. And doing drawings. I forgot my last drawings were flowers, something to do, magnolias, because I am a magnolia. I mean, that sounds kind of silly, but my family on my mother's side were the Magnolias.
Oh, okay.
From Waco.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you were going spiritual on me for a moment.
Exactly. You did hear me say from Waco.
From Waco. Tell what's the significance of Waco?
Magnolias.
Yeah.
What's his name? Chip and Joanna. Magnolia. This Magnolia.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
There used to be stores and everything called Magnolia. I don't know if they just made it up and it was coincidental, or if they saw the store name or an old family name.
Oh, interesting. So they're not related to you?
No. That's why I'm making pieces saying I am Magnolia.
Oh, there you go.
You're not.
Is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't get to?
Let me read my notes.
All right.
I think you covered it all.
Ooh, I have one good question for you. If you could go back and you could talk to your younger art self, what would you say?
Live cheap. No, I mean, don't expect anything. And I've learned that actually in my older time. And I did start meditating about 13 years ago when all this bad crap was happening, health wise, everything. And I started reading everything about, Buddhist meditation and all that. And really, it's like there's this word they use called emptiness. And my definition of that is anything and everything can happen, but you have no idea when that's going to take place. So I would have just said, just make your work, if it's good and if it's valid. And who determines what's good? I mean, I think seasoned artists and mature curators and stuff, there is something about looking at a work of art and without knowing whose it is, that it's good. Take, for instance, and I always go back to film, the Coens.
Mm-hmm.
Something about watching their movies makes me want to go right to the studio. I don't know why. I can't define it, but there's something about their motion pictures that have something that hits me in a spot that I can't define.
Interesting. For fun.
Even if I don't know they made the film.
You like the film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for being here with me.
Thanks,
It's
Susanna.
always so fun talking
And
with you.
great to see you.
I know. It's so fun. Thank you.
That's cool. Thanks.
Thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. I'm in Providence, Turks and Caicos, doing a little work on the beach. My husband is way over there. That's why I'm doing a little work on the beach. I think it's interesting when I when I look back through Nic's podcast, because he was my first. When I first re-listened to my edit, I thought, man, I'm going to have to redo this whole thing. But then at about minute 6, it kind of changes a little bit, and then I feel like it hits its stride around 9, and I love where it is at the end. Discussing art with Nic is so fun. Obviously, he's very passionate about it, but very knowledgeable too. He's just a super fun guy. So anyway, thanks for sticking around.